Alright, let's talk about this book today, Breath by James Nestor. This is one of the best books that I have read in a while. I really enjoyed reading this book, not just because it's an interesting, fascinating topic, but also because it's written very well in a kind of story type of storytelling, like you would read a novel, essentially. So, also, even though this is like 200 pages, it reads very fast. I read this during just basically one trip, hanging out at the airport and so forth. But yeah, and this, for me, this book also touched on an important topic because I've thought I've had a little bit of some breathing problems sometimes, maybe a little bit of a tendency towards mouth breathing. Also at times I've had some allergies also that make it difficult to breathe from the nose. Now I don't have any allergy going on, a little bit of a flu, but anyways, let's dive into the topics here. I'm gonna do my summary of this book and kind of give you an overall review in these videos like usual. So there's part 1, part 2 and part 3 to the book. Part 1 is very quick, it's just like an introduction. Talks about why humans are the worst breathers in the animal kingdom. Then touches on mouth breathing, talks about mouth breathing a little bit. And why it's not good to breathe through our mouths. Then part 2 is the lost art and science of breathing, where he starts talking about breathing through the nose. He actually did an experiment with this Swedish guy, I forgot what was his name, some other researcher, and they tried an experiment where they actually tucked their noses shut, so they couldn't even breathe from their nose. They had to breathe through their mouth all day long, all night long, and they found they had a really difficult time sleeping. Snoring went up and everything. And the craziest part about this is that if you're a habitual mouth breather versus a nose breather, your face and your body will actually start to adapt in a way where it becomes easier to breathe through your mouth and more difficult to breathe through your nose. The opposite happens also when you breathe through your nose, and your body will actually adapt to that. Your face, even mouth breathers even have a different shape of face. They have more of a long type of face. They start to they'll start to find it more and more difficult to breathe through the nose, because it literally physically changes the structure of your face, your head. It starts to change. Then the next chapter is on the exhale, how exhaling for a longer time will make you feel better. Then breathing slower, also one factor that makes your breathing better. Breathing slower, breathing less, you will actually feel much better that way. It's actually that feeling when, like, there's certain breathing practices where you don't actually breathe at all, and that's what they described, or what the other guy described, I think, that he always refers to here in this book. Was it Olson or something, the Swedish guy, mentioning that that's the closest thing to euphoria that you can feel is actually when you practice like not breathing. So that was actually a big takeaway for me, a big distinction, because I always thought if I'm anxious or if I'm stressed or something, breathe more, not necessarily faster, but breathe more. It's actually breathe less and breathe slower. So the next chapter, actually chapter 6, is less. So try to breathe less. He talked about how our bodies actually go into kind of this panic mode when we don't breathe enough. What is the chemical called, or the other thing, not oxygen, but the thing that builds up in our bodies, totally blacking out on the name of that, but our body sensing that we are getting less oxygen in, and is it, I don't remember what it's, nitric oxide or something like that. So when that builds up, our bodies panic and we automatically tend to start to breathe more, but that actually is all like an illusion, basically, that panic or out of breath feeling that you feel, and you don't actually need a huge breath at that moment to survive. Then also very important, interesting one is the chewing chapter he talks about. Sorry guys, I have a little bit low energy today because I've been sick, but yeah, still summarizing this while this is fresh in my mind. So chewing is super important because your bone structure, also your face, just like through breathing through your nose versus your mouth, you'll have your face will adapt also if you eat all these soft foods all the time. You never chew anything hard. Not just through generations and like not just throughout generations have our jaws become weaker. If you look at ancient populations, you will see they had much like wider jaws, much stronger jaws, tended to have better teeth and everything too. But part of it is they might have a better nutrition from real food than from modern processed foods. But the other fact is, like, think about it, if you eat like mac and cheese or pasta, or you eat like potatoes or cereal or oats, or anything that you eat, oatmeal, porridge, eggs, it's not, everything almost is soft. Like try to recall what's the thing that you ate last that was actually like really hard to chew. I cannot really even recall. Like maybe some slice of bread, like if I eat in Finland like rye bread, that's pretty hard to chew sometimes. But besides that, I don't recall like having a meal that was like a workout to the jaw. Maybe a steak sometimes. Of course, if you have like, sometimes like the steak is not good and that's when it's hard to chew it. Like if it's a good steak, it's actually pretty easy to chew. Yeah. So but if it's like hard, like raw meat or raw vegetables, like our ancestors used to eat, that builds strength and muscle and even changes the bone structure of your jaws. So now why is this important? It's because that again enables us to breathe easier. It's the problem is we have like too small mouths, which first of all, when you have a small mouth, your tongue doesn't fit into your mouth properly, so it pushes back and makes it hard to breathe air because the tongue is in the way. Yeah, just our faces overall are becoming smaller, weaker, and less air can go through our noses and throats. The breathing becomes less efficient. So yeah, that's interesting, but that's something that you can do. Like they studied and they found out in these researchers that even some chewing, like chewing harder, chewing gum and stuff like that, it can change the structure of your face. And then yeah, interesting also, by the way, like an adaptation. If you ever wondered why people in the north have smaller noses than people who live in the south, or not necessarily smaller, but at least wider noses in the south and more narrow noses in the north. You think about someone from Finland like me, I have a very differently shaped nose than someone from like Africa or Peru or Brazil or something. The reason for that is actually that our bodies have adapted to have different noses. In the north, when you have cold air, you need to filter the cold air and try to like keep your body warmer. So it makes sense that people have smaller noses and nostrils in the north. And then when you have a climate that is warmer, you can have these bigger nostrils. Yeah, that was also interesting fact he talked about here. All these adaptations, fascinating how actually we can, during our own lifetime, not just like change throughout generations, but also we can change the structure of our face, even with not significantly necessarily, or maybe significantly, but not like massively. You're not gonna look like the Neanderthal humans used to look like, or something like that. But you're gonna like a human who just ate like raw meat and vegetables and so forth, hunter-gatherers. You're not gonna look like that, nor do you necessarily want to look like that. But you can change the shape of your bones, your body structure, your muscles in a noticeable way. Then He talks about in part 3 there's some breathing methods he talks about really, and then there's also an appendix where he talks more on, gives more breathing methods. So really recommend getting this book, highly recommend. Super important, super interesting, also fascinating. So get this book, I'll link it in the description. Get it from Amazon, delivered fast. Amazon has all the books really, like I've never had a book that I couldn't find from Amazon. So get this book, like this video if you found this helpful, and subscribe to the channel for the next book review. I'm not really sure which one is it going to be, and I'm not gonna reveal yet, but I'm gonna keep posting. So subscribe and see you later. Thanks for watching.